Today I found myself in the bookstore, as always, and I was rummaging through the books on sale for the day, and I came across this amazing book. It is called Bible Prophecies. And actually, it's a good looking book. Everything is color, everything is well organized. It's just a well written book, and it's just talking about all the different prophecies that are in the Bible, different um, different prophets and their views. And it was talking about how not all prophets come from wealthy or they come from priests. They come from all walks of life. When God calls you, God calls on you. It just depends on, are you listening, or are you willing to go through the risks that it takes and spreading your word. And so this book was only $6. I was pretty excited about that. And we were driving around and I was reading the book, and sure enough, I switched to the Antichrist. I have this obsession with what's going on in our place in the world. And as a child, I grew up with no religion, with no teachings whatsoever. I mean, I came from a Catholic background, and we would do Catholic things, and we had to do the First Holy Communion and stuff like that. But I never really understood it. So in my teenage years, my scientific mind couldn't accept a lot of it because it just didn't make sense to me. I had my mother, who was this intelligent Taurus, and my father, who was this intelligent Taurus. They have the same birthday, by the way. And they would just tell me about the concrete reality that we lived in. My mom would be like, how can there be a God when I can grab a pile of dirt and throw it on the sink, and somehow life is created out of that, out of the germs that come off of that? And so I was a child when I was told these things, and it left me very confused. So then in my late teens, I realized that there was something missing. It was like I kept having like bad karma after bad karma after bad karma, and finally what happened to me was I was walking across the street to go help out my boss, and it was me and four other people, and we got caught in a hailstorm all of a sudden, and everybody had jumped across this fence but me, and I got beaten up so badly that I had bruises all over my face, all over my back. I had welts, and I had these like, oh, it was the worst. It felt like somebody was really throwing golf balls at me, and I just took this beating. I couldn't cross the street because I couldn't see cars coming because that's how thick the storm was. So all I could do was just take the beating. And whenever I returned to work, I was a mess. My hair was crazy. My makeup was smeared all over my face, and I was just like the saddest girl that ever lived. And at that moment, I went home and I was soaking in the tub, and I was just crying, and I was thinking to myself, there has to be more. I'm doing something wrong if this is what my life is coming to. I'm getting beat up by golf ball size hail outside. So beyond that story, I changed my life. I started looking into what could be potential realities that I was missing. What was I missing? And the Bible was the one thing that I was really missing. So a good friend of mine one day, she gave me this Bible, and she's still to this day just such a spiritual person, such a strong faith, and I read it, and it moved me so much. So I've always kept it a part of my life. I've always thought about the scientific ways of reality, and then I've incorporated the spiritual side of my reality. And so today I came across this book, and I was reading through it, and it was just moving to read because it was saying how in the end times a lot of people are going to be fooled. There's going to be a lot of false prophets. There's going to be a lot of false words being said. There's going to be a lot of stuff to distract you, to keep you away from the truth. And as I was reading it, I couldn't help but think about my place in the world do I come across these distractions? Do I distract other people with my words, or do I enlighten people with my words? What part of the spectrum do I fall in? Because we're all playing the same game. We're all involved. We all have a role. We read certain things and they strike us, or we dislike it because it doesn't accommodate to the role that we play. And so when we were driving home, my mother calls me up, which she went from being this hardcore scientist, like Taurus, pain in the butt, did not want to change her ways beyond anything, to this completely other person who had such a profound faith. And she just started questioning, which we're all doing. That's kind of what we're at. And so as she's questioning, she's learning about UFOs, and she's obsessed with UFOs. She's obsessed with extraterrestrials. She's obsessed with all these things. And then today, I don't have my phone, but today she tells me about this movie. If I can remember correctly, it's called The Age of Deception, Fallen Angels, and the New World Order. And this movie is talking about how we're being so distracted from the truth. We're being so manipulative and getting moved away from the truth. And as my evolution has kept moving forward, I've come across books where I would buy the book and it would look so intriguing to me, and I'd be like, wow. One of them stuck out to me in particular that I can remember, and it was called Becoming God. And this book was about how you are becoming God because your thoughts create your reality. So therefore, you are the creator of your realities, and because you come from God, you are God. And something just didn't stick right with me. I didn't like that book. I didn't even finish reading it. I put it back on the shelf, never touched it again, because something inside of my heart knew this just isn't right. Yeah, you help co-create your reality, but it doesn't mean that you are the one. You're very mistaken if you think to yourself that you are the one. And so, with that said, my mother calls me up and we're having this conversation about these wild stories about how we're just being so pushed away with like this new age movement and all of these things, in which I'm very involved with the new age movement. I myself work as a natural healer. I study every religion. I study every culture. I talk about evolution. I use science to explain how spirituality works, and I all these things, and I got kind of worried because here I am reading this book about how we're falsely led and we're falsely taught. And so I sat there and I thought to myself, me and my mother had this same talk. No matter what has happened, when I first picked up the Bible when I was younger, and I read that Jesus is the one. He's the one. And I'm going to give you a short explanation as to why I can believe that. Because he was born into this body like we are. Like you and I right now, we're in physical form and we have to deal with challenges every single day. And he had to face these challenges. But instead of us, like, I know that I'm not the strongest person in the world. And sometimes I give in to temptation. I give in to like my friends, and I do things that I know that I shouldn't do in my heart. But there was an exception for Jesus because he didn't give in to these things. He didn't give in, and he didn't just give up, and he didn't lose faith, and he had this connection and this understanding of who he was. And he was the first human being, or in physical form, to evolve into something more and to show us that we can become more by giving up all these things that do not serve us. We can become more than what we are today. And because of that, and because I understand that fact, I can understand that Jesus is the one. I've studied so many religions, and I appreciate and respect every single one of them because they didn't all come at the same time. It wasn't like Earth was here and then boom, all these religions were here. No. It happened periodically. One came, and then time moved on. The next came, the next came, the next came. But what we have to realize is that Jesus was the last one, and he was the one who came here to tell us that there's more than what we see. And because he was able to come here and make it in physical form, it gives people like you and I hope that we can make it in physical form. And so even though I believe in evolution, evolution is the process that it takes to get to this point. From the dawn of time all the way to now, it's a process. Evolution is the name of that process. But in the end, there's something beyond what we know. But our heart truly knows. And your heart will always know. And I've always followed that instinct and had faith that when I pray and I say, okay, Jesus, please be with me. Please show me the way. Show me what I need to say. Show me what I need to do, and I will do it. And I know that I'm worth my prayer being answered, because sometimes I have that fear of, oh my gosh, like, am I leading people in the wrong direction? Or am I that person that I shouldn't be? Am I messing with things I shouldn't be messing with? But then I know in my heart, and my mother, we were talking about this, she knew in her heart that our prayers are answered. They go answered every day. And who are we to not be worthy of the answer? And that's something that we have to accept. So the conclusion for the day is that I kind of had this fear of this image here. And then in my heart, I had to tell myself that, like, that's just not going to exist. It's going to happen. But as long as we have a pure heart, pure intentions, a pure evolution, a pure way of change, we're not trying to manipulate others. I don't sit here blogging about my life in my head and the thoughts that go on to manipulate you. I sit here to show you that you're not alone at all. I'm not alone, because you're here going through the same thing. We all live in the same reality. We watch the same shows. We know what's going on. We live in this time frame, this existence. We all have the same kind of Bibles that are offered to us. And it's a quite beautiful experience. And I feel very privileged to go through it. And one thing that just blew my mind is how we're all on the same page. I mean, I buy this book today. I call my mother up to talk to her about something beyond that. I wasn't even going to bring up the book. And then she starts telling me about this movie that she watched. And it's like, we're sitting here blown away. Just like, how did we end up on the same page today? How did we end up on the same vibration, the same frequency, the same thought, we need to know this. We cannot get distracted. Do not be fooled. Do not let somebody come in and tell you. Do not let your brain tell you what your heart believes is wrong. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Be stronger than the brain. Be stronger than society. Be stronger than the norm and what the norm wants you to know. That's the name of the game. That's the fun part of it. That's the will. The will to live, the will to keep going. I can make these claims all day, but it's simple things that could tear it down easily. But in my heart, if I follow my heart, if I follow my truth, if you follow your heart, follow your truth, and you do what's right for you, what's right for your highest good, what's right for me may not be right for you, which is fine. Totally fine. I wouldn't judge you on that. Just like I hope you wouldn't judge me on it. It's just blows me away. Today was pretty interesting. I really like days like today. I don't really get to blog much, and I don't get to talk about this much because I don't get inspired too much. And honestly, that's because I haven't been searching too much. And today, there was no searching. It came to me. This divine light, it follows us everywhere. It shines brightly in the background, illuminating everything. I just hope that whoever you are, if you ever find these videos, I hope you can relate. I'd like to hear your story someday. I hope that maybe today you came across something like this, or maybe I sparked it in you and you thought about it and then you looked it up, or it made sense to you, and in your heart you knew, I'm not going to be distracted anymore. I'm not going to be in fear of the world blowing up and people robbing my house and false prophets and all this stuff. And honestly, you know what? This is the main thing. I'm going to end it with this. I had to learn to quit guessing how it's going to be in the end. I was so obsessed with this. I read the book of Revelations like thousands of times. I had to cut it out. I cut myself off. You know what? It's not good for me anymore. It's not good for you anymore. What's good for you is this moment, and this moment that always exists. This moment right here. What's around you? What's here in front of you now today? This heart that you always have, that's what's important. Right now I'm at home. I'm making a video. That's how easy life is. Instead, I could be crying about, oh, the end times are near and I've sinned so much and all this, but no, I'm not going to do that. I owe it to myself to say, you know what? Okay. When that time comes, I will be ready. You will be ready. We are all going to face that together. Just like we all know that Toy Story exists, we all know that people in shows like Jersey Shore are just getting torn back. We know that Aqua Teen Hunger Force is chilling. We know what kind of cars are out there. Saab, Audi, freaking Fords, I don't know, whatever else, Subarus, Chevys. We all know. And we are all going to know when the end comes and we're going to be together. And it's not even going to be the end. It's going to be a new beginning. We just have to have faith. That Limp Bizkit song, because you gotta have faith. Well, I guess that's not the original. The Limp Bizkit's like, what? It's kind of crazy. Sorry, I know I go off. I hope that you all had a good weekend. I know that mine was pretty enlightening. I know this video is a little longer than usual. And I hope that you remember to have faith. And I hope you remember that there is only one. There's only one. Have a good night.